ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to yet another weekly episode of the Modzu Hangout. And this week we are speaking with a representative from AMD. So if you have any video card questions there in the viewing audience, you get them primed up, and what he can answer, he will try. So our usual crowd of miscreants, we've got Bill.
Hey everybody, good to be back again.
We've got our Modsquito back.
I made it!
Yay!
Back from the cabin.
Woohoo! And with us from AMD, we have Robert.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me.
You bet, man. You know, Robert, the big question is how did you get involved with AMD? Why don't you give us a bit of the backstory on that?
The short story is Facebook, but the long story is I did hardware reviews for .com for a long time for a website that no longer covers that kind of stuff. But you make friends, you make contacts in the industry, and one day on Facebook I posted, I was like 23 years old, and I posted that I was looking for a new apartment. And at the time, AMD's director of marketing says, "How about Toronto?" And 6 months later, I had moved to Canada and worked there for 3 years before coming back to the U.S.
Wow, dreams do come true, everybody.
They do.
Did you hear that?
It was a lot of fun, kind of wild, but it was totally worth it.
So what was it about you that he liked?
Is this the part where I brag about myself? I think just knowledge of the industry in general. I've been a computer user since I was 4 years old, and it's a hobby of mine, and always has been. So keeping on top of what AMD was doing, and Intel and NVIDIA and all these other major players in the industry was just a big part of my day-to-day life. And I think you can teach people marketing or public relations. That's a learned skill, but really deep passion for PC hardware or any other type of hardware, that's not something you can easily teach,
No.
especially a lifetime worth of knowledge. So that's, I think, what sold it.
Wow, and what I like about you is that we were just talking earlier about how Intel doesn't really have a public face, go-to person
Nope.
via social media. So, and you're one of those people of AMD. I mean, you can reach out, tweet to you, find you on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really a nice advantage for AMD.
I think so. We have a lot of people at AMD who are public facing. I can think of my colleague on the CPU side, James Pryor. He's always available. Erin Maiorino, she runs the Twitter account for Radeon. She's on Twitter. Roy Taylor, of course. I'm on Twitter, Reddit, Facebook. Like, that's just kind of how we roll. It's just easier to connect with people when you actually participate.
When you were doing PC builds, as I imagine you were doing a few probably for friends and family,
Yeah.
along the way, was there a point when you maybe preferred AMD for certain reasons over Intel?
I actually was an AMD guy for a long time. The first PC I built with my own money was an 800 megahertz socket A Athlon, and then my first GPU that I built with my own money or bought with my own money from a paper route was a Radeon 9700 Pro, and I had good experiences the entire way. And then that kind of morphed into the Athlon XP being awesome and the Athlon 64 being awesome. And I've just had good experiences with AMD products for my entire life, so I kind of stuck with it, especially now, today, for people who need good value. Mom, dad, yada, yada. All AMD rigs has been the way to go for them.
Yeah, definitely. I think these guys would agree with that. Moss is a big fan of AMD stuff, aren't you, Moss?
Absolutely, especially for HTPCs, because those APUs are hard to beat.
Yeah, my home theater PC is mini ITX AMD based, and it's everything that I could need from a home theater PC.
Yeah, I've got a few of those. I like building really small and compact, and I think that's one of the major advantages of those APUs is you don't need a graphics card unless you're planning on using it for some like actual hard, intense gaming. I mean, it can do light gaming if you want, but for an HTPC, I've never had any problems with it. So it's like I love those things because you can get the motherboard and the CPU for less than you can get almost an equivalent Intel processor for. So it's like sold.
Well, and yeah, my home theater PC kind of doubles as a game console as well. And for pretty much everything that I throw at it that I would want to play sitting on a couch with a controller. The APU is fine, and with the size of my TV and the viewing distance that I'm sitting at, 720p looks exactly the same as 1080p, so that's even more performance in my back pocket, and that works out really nice.
Yeah, that is true. My projector that I have set up is only a 720, and it's like you said, it's like sitting 10 feet away. You can't tell anyway.
Yeah, it looks exactly the same because the pixel density is so high you can't tell the difference.
Robert, do you have a? You mentioned gaming and you play your games on your home theater PC. Do you also have a dedicated gaming rig, like in your office?
It's right over there. Yeah, right to my right, and that is my dedicated desktop.
Can you give us the specs and maybe a peek at it?
Let's see. I don't want to screw up my webcam, but there it is.
It's a Corsair.
Yeah,
case.
that's a Corsair 650D case. I've got a Skylake Fury X. It's a 6700K CPU. Antec 1300 watt, platinum certified. Got a Samsung 950 Pro as my game drive. So nice and fast.
And
right
let
now
me guess. You have GTX 1080s right now.
I have four. No, I have one Fury X. One Fury X in there, which is kind of everything that I need, and then this webcam here is sitting on top of my Acer XR341CK FreeSync monitor. That's the 34-inch, 3440 by 1440 ultra-wide FreeSync display. I love it. And then right now I'm running water cooling an old Corsair H100 that I've had for forever, but I actually just bought a Noctua NHD15S, so that'll be here Tuesday. That's my Tuesday project.
Would you say that Corsair cases are your favorite? Is there other brands you like as well?
Depends on the form factor I'm looking for. For this size, I think the 650D was perfect for me. I also really like the NZXT Source 340. My wife's PC right there is built on the Source 340, and it's so clean inside based on the way they laid it out. For my home theater PC, I use the Fractal Node 304, which just takes a crap ton of hard drives, and that's exactly what I want. So I didn't have to buy a NAS appliance for my system as well. I've got like 6 hard drives in there, plus a GPU. So that's a nice case for a home theater PC.
One thing, I don't know if you've noticed it too, maybe like when you see people in the AMD community showing off their rigs and stuff, are you seeing the progression from people leaving 3.5-inch drives and going to 1 or 2 SSDs more and more?
I generally see people have an SSD boot drive or game drive and then just one large rotational disk for mass storage. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, there's a lot more cases that are eliminating the optical drives, and now they're transitioning to eliminate 3.5-inch drive cages.
Mm-hmm. I really love the Node or the Source because it doesn't have an optical drive bay. I can't even remember the last time I used an optical disk. So I wish more cases would do that. Just frees up so much space inside the case to make it either easier to install a closed-loop cooler or just make the case smaller. And I would love if more cases were smaller and just got rid of the drive bay.
Yeah. Have you done a custom liquid loop yet yourself?
I built one for a friend a couple years back based on some Swift Tech equipment, but I never got around to it on my own PC. I didn't push over clocks that were high enough to really benefit from it, so yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Did you guys have any other questions about Robert's rigs?
No, I'm good.
How far have you overclocked it?
Let's see. Let me fire up CPU-Z. I don't remember my current overclock. Let's see here. My current overclock, I think, is 4.2. No, that's wrong. That seems. Oh, 4.5 gigahertz. Yes, is the current overclock on Skylake.
Nice.
Beyond that, the V-core gets too high and it's not worth it.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, there was a time I was thinking about this too. I'm really into cases, Robert. It's
Mm.
kind of what I built my business around. And I recall in the past, AMD would team up with a manufacturer and do like a limited run of an AMD themed case.
Mm.
Do you recall any of those? And do you think they'd maybe do that again?
We had one a while back for a platform we called Scorpion. And,
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah,
Remember that, guys?
there was also one for
Yeah.
Spider, I think, but that would all be handled by the CPU team. So
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if they're planning anything like that for future products.
That's interesting. Drew, you had a question you wanted to ask Robert.
Yeah, I did. Let's see here, because I know we were discussing just beforehand, that you don't really have all that much that you can give away, of course. But of what you can talk about, what is the coolest next big thing that you're looking forward to AMD releasing?
Well, I am excited about Vega. That's all I can say. That the part exists. It uses HBM2, and that's all there is to say about that.
All right.
In general, in the industry, I am really excited about the new generations of monitors that are coming based on DisplayPort 1.3. Their DP 1.3 has a huge bandwidth increase over 1.2, and that allows them to push some really interesting refresh rate and resolution combinations that weren't possible at all before. And I'm a huge display snob, so having just big, fast monitors is really appealing to me, and so I like what DisplayPort 1.3 brings to the table, and I expect maybe second half of this year we'll start to see that holiday season probably, but they're going to be really cool.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, one more thing, HDR. You guys familiar with HDR?
Yep.
Yeah, so for those people out in viewer land who are not familiar, it's this idea that the human eye sees a bunch of colors and contrast between light and dark, and just all this detail that a normal monitor can't articulate, and a normal content production chain from capture to display doesn't really capture it all. And in fact, the mastering process or the rendering process kind of stamps that stuff out deliberately because the displays can't show it. But HDR displays and content pipelines are coming in games, and already sort of there for movies, but it's one of those monitor technologies that you can't unsee, or it's hard not to notice it. Like, you stand in front of a 4K display versus a 1440p, it's kind of difficult to tell aside from tiny little icons. But man, HDR looks incredible side by side. So those consumer monitors are coming again, holiday time frame, and just wow, they look great. I'm really excited about that.
What type of VR developments can you share that with us about what's happening that you've seen a preview of over there?
I can say that I've seen a 4K resolution per eye headset. We have a couple of those floating around in our office in Toronto.
Wow.
So the market is already advancing very rapidly. I kind of view it as like the display industry in its early stages, that just up real fast, because there's so much opportunity to explore better hardware, new designs, new thinking. It's going to move really quick, and it's pretty awesome that we have the Vive and the Rift now, and we're already looking at 4K headsets and wireless headsets and all that sort of stuff. It's just a crazy time to look at the industry.
Yeah,
and it makes me wonder really what that sweet spot's going to end up being, because I saw a talk with John Carmack a couple of years ago, and granted he was talking about they were working on 720p displays for VR, I mean. And he was saying that mathematically it looked like 2560 lines of resolution across was going to be the maximum that your eye could really heck out. But to hear that they're going with 4K already seems that somebody just decided to jump right beyond that barrier and go right out.
Hmm. Well, it's also economy of scale, right? Like there's already a lot of manufacturing interest in 1080p, 1440p, and 4K. That's where the production lines are sort of modeled around. So it would make sense to kind of overshoot the VR specific resolution and just go into a panel resolution that is already common, already exists, and it's beyond what anybody would need, perhaps. So you get to save manufacturing costs, and you also get to meet or exceed the threshold of what the eye can see.
Exciting times as far as I
Yes.
That's
I
it right there.
I love it. It seems every so often that there's when gaming, PC gaming, everybody starts saying, "Oh, PC gaming's dead," or "It's stagnant," yada yada. Something comes in to stimulate it, and that's happened every time for 20 years, and so it just blows my mind that people would even dare to say that PC gaming is dead, because my God, it's actually growing right now, $1 billion year over year in hardware and software. So it's never been a better time to be a PC gamer.
Yeah. On Friday, and I'll let you go ahead, Moss. On Friday, one of the tenants here at the warehouse where my studio is, they had brought the foreign exchange student with them, and he is 15 years old from Vietnam.
Oh man!
And when he was leaving, I said to him, "Khan, PC or Apple?" And he goes, PC. And I go, yeah, high five, man. That was awesome to hear a 15-year-old get excited about PC building.
Sure. I think it's great. I remember building PCs when I was that age, and it was a lot. I want to say it was a lot more difficult back then because the case selections weren't all that good. There just wasn't the diversity that the industry has today. But it was an awesome puzzle bonding experience with my dad. My dad has always been a PC gaming fan. He's 61, 62 years old this year, and he plays Team Fortress 2 and loves it, and Battlefield. So I've always had gaming in my family, and I think it's just a great hobby to be involved with. And the people are super nice, like really, really nice people in PC modding and gaming.
Go ahead, Moss.
Well, I was just going to say, since we were talking about gaming already, one of our other staffers, Kyle, had a question that was relating to consoles, or with so many consoles having AMD processors of some sort in them, do you think more games are going to start being primarily AMD friendly? Like not necessarily just console, but on PC side as well.
Sure. Well, so there's this continuum of events, this chain of events that has unfolded that I think people sometimes view it as coincidental, but this is deliberate. So step one, we essentially locked up all the consoles, and that's a massive install base in developer studios, not to mention the install base in user homes. And so Graphics Core Next was suddenly an integral part of pretty much every major game developer on the planet. So to extract the most performance from a console, there are a variety of APIs available to you. You can use higher level languages, you can use lower level languages, and as console developers got more experience with these consoles, they realized that these APIs, these languages that we have on console, wouldn't it be really great if we have this on PC as well? So what was really happening is that they were getting a ton of performance out of per watt, per flop of potential in the hardware on a console, and they weren't coming anywhere close to that on the PC. So, for example, Johan Anderson from DICE came to us many years ago and had dinner with the VP of graphics at the time. His name was Matt Skinner, and said, "Hey, you know those APIs we have on the console? I want something like that on the PC. And Matt Skinner kind of looked at the ceiling and said, yeah, okay, I think we can do that. And that was Mantle. And so Mantle was the only low overhead PC API for about a year and a half. And then we donated Mantle to Vulkan, and pretty much every single design philosophy and feature or function that you see in Mantle is also found in DirectX 12. And so now you have this ecosystem where all the game developers learned GCN-based consoles. They learned the low overhead APIs on AMD-based hardware. The APIs that replaced Mantle are very similar to the ones they learned from AMD, and it just creates this cycle, this loop of people becoming more and more and more familiar with our hardware. And most recently, we released this thing called shader intrinsic functions, which is like the lowest level way to address hardware on a GPU. It goes right to the instruction set with very little human readable language above it. And that's another feature that was on console, used for performance or feature reasons, and now has been brought to the PC as well. So over the course of 3 years, we have step by step by step essentially indoctrinated the industry with APIs and architecture ideas that are beneficial to AMD. And that was a deliberate strategy. Those pieces are not coincidental, but I think sometimes people see it as an accident.
I was also kind of curious, so like, what kind of an impact on the hardware side of things did dominating the console market have? So like, what kind of a bleed over was there from, hey, you know, either this is something we tried in the consoles and it worked really well, we should try and figure out how to do it in desktop, or even just the straight cash flow that having all of that in consoles generates? I mean, R&D and all that kind of stuff takes money, obviously.
Yes. So I think one of the big ones, the most obvious one for consumers, will be asynchronous compute. I think most people interested in PC gaming as a hobby have heard of that now. It's the idea that you could run compute and graphics sort of side by side rather than stopping one to start the other and then switching back. Asynchronous compute got its start on the console. It was used for about 2 years on the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 before arriving on the PC, and that's because we needed the time as an industry to get the APIs on PC to function like they already did on the consoles. And once that bridge was built, then we could bring the functionality like asynchronous compute over to PC. And Vulkan has it, DirectX 12 has it, and that's can be a 10, 20, or even 30% performance jump when a mature implementation is brought into the game. So that is one obvious area where consoles have been really, really influential on the way PC and PC architectures behave.
And I accidentally ran into that this weekend. I do folding at home, and I forgot to turn it off before I started Doom. And it was finishing up on one of my cards, but the other card was running fine. And I didn't really notice anything. And it wasn't until about 10, 20 minutes later, it was the way that the graphics will shift their focus in as you get closer to them. And I realized that it wasn't snapping to as crisply as it was. And I thought, why isn't that? Oh, I've got something still running.
Folding. Yeah.
So I turned that off, game snapped right back into shape, and it was working beautifully ever since. But that was usually, if I leave folding on any other API, it just cripples the game flat out.
We've got a couple of questions that are rolling in from our live chat, and anybody watching, feel free to ask Robert a question. His realm is more of the GPUs, not the CPUs with AMD. So one of the questions here, Robert, is will AMD host any future LAN parties up here in Toronto?
Yes, that's all I can say.
Ah, that's good news,
Yeah.
bong wires. There you go.
There you go.
Maybe if you do, you probably want to connect with bong wires. He's one of our active members in our forum, and he does these really cool builds, PC builds. So you'd want somebody there with his kind of work to show off.
Sure.
Here's another question. It comes from Steel Fractal, and they say, I currently have two 1080p monitors connected to my MSI 390 and thinking of upgrading to a single 4K monitor. Is the 390 powerful enough, or should I wait until the 490 is out from AIB Partners?
So let's see, 390's Hawaii. I would say Hawaii is a pretty solid 4K card, but everybody has a different definition of what solid is. Some people are like, I'm not going to upgrade to 4K until it's 60 FPS high, or some people are like, okay, medium settings are fine as long as it's playable frame rates. Realistically speaking, I would say 390 is probably like 4K medium high at 40 to 60 frames per second, based on what I've seen from our benchmarks. And so if that is an acceptable performance threshold for you, then yeah, do it. If it's not, wait to see more powerful hardware.
And as expected, Robert, we have a couple of people asking, when can we expect the Zen processors?
I don't work in CPU, and I want to talk about that. I don't work in processor division at AIM. Even internally, there are very tight protections between the two business units, the graphics side and the CPU side. So it just minimizes the release minimizes leaks. So being in graphics, I don't know anything about what's going on with Zen. I learn about it publicly at the same time you guys do.
And that also, and then another person asked when we expect the new Fury card. And please explain to everybody why you just can't reveal this type of information.
Yeah, so there's this relatively obscure law called Reg FD, or Regulation Fair Disclosure. It's an FTC law that applies to publicly traded U.S. companies. And it essentially says that if there is any disclosure of information like schedules, specifications, prices, anything that could get users excited or get investors excited to move or affect the stock price in any way, that information, we have to undertake a best effort to disclose it as widely as possible to all investors simultaneously. And what that means is we have to issue a press release at the very minimum and undertake, again, a best effort, which usually translates to briefing hundreds of members of the global media on that information. So we can legally say that we did our best effort to let everybody that invests at AMD know at the same time. The practical impact of that is that I can't come onto a podcast or on Twitter or on Reddit and say timing or prices or speculate on future products or talk about specifications of unreleased products, because it's frankly illegal for me to do that. So when we are ready to talk about products like Vega, you will see a big buzz about it, press releases, media coverage, yada yada, because that's what we're legally obligated to do.
Yes, we don't want Robert to get fired from AMD.
I like my job.
Because we'd like to have Robert come back someday when this stuff comes out so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Here's something that somebody brought up on our staff. Droog and Mosquito, you'll recall, it's the Radeon Pro Polaris, the SSG Polaris that NNTech revealed like a couple of weeks ago. Do you know anything about that, Robert?
Sure. So the Radeon Pro SSG is actually based on the Fiji chip, which Fury X, Fury Nano, or R9 Nano. And what we did is on the circuit board, all the memory, all the space that would usually be taken up by memory that we eliminated by moving the memory onto the interposer package, we replaced that with NVMe or M.2 connections. And so we have two NVMe solid-state devices in RAID on the PCB, and the GPU can directly access the flash of those NVMe devices and stream content, sort of like as an extended frame buffer, as an extended memory on the device. And I think there's a terabyte of memory local to the graphics card, plus the 4 gigs of RAM from the HBM.
And the timing on this is actually really cool, because there was one of the major studio execs that was talking about what would be required to do very fast photorealistic rendering for movies. And he was saying it would take about a terabyte of memory to be able to access it on board.
Yeah,
to be able to do such a thing.
A lot of the directors now are using this technique where instead of just putting an actor on the green screen and then directing that actor and then hoping it turns out okay in post after all the CGI has been implemented, what they'll actually do is use a game engine to superimpose a really simplified version of what they're going to do in post-production onto the screen. Onto the green screen, so the director live can see the real actor acting with like a game engine quality version of the character that will eventually be into the movie, and a game engine quality version of the scenery that will eventually be in the movie. So they can sort of direct the full scene at the same time rather than waiting for editing and CGI to take care of the rest. But that's a lot of information, a lot of geometry, a lot of textures. And even with 32 gig Pro graphics cards, they still want more memory, and it's so and DRAM is, you can't get that much DRAM on a board. Like 32 gigs is kind of the practical limit right now. So there has to be something else to increase that capacity to what's needed, and that's NAND flash. And it's local to the graphics card. The GPU can access it directly, and it's just a hell of a lot faster than going across the PCI Express bus to access that content on a disk somewhere over there. Even a very fast NVMe drive is still much slower than accessing NAND flash that's right next door to the graphics chip, and that should, or at least we hope and we think, that should solve their problems or their needs.
Well, if it doesn't, they can always come out with another revision next year and just push that barrier back the way that technology always does it.
Absolutely.
One of our viewers says he's currently working on an FX 8350 build. Any feedback, thoughts on that, Robert, for him?
I would say we recently worked with a bunch of partners. I say we. Our CPU guys worked with a bunch of partners, MSI, Asus, Gigabyte, ASRock, to get some 990FX boards and 970 chipset boards with the latest features like M.2 slots connected to PCI Express, USB 3.1. Make sure you pick up one of the boards, right? It's always important, I think, to if you're going to build a new system, make sure you have the latest I/O. Because most people don't upgrade their motherboards for 2, 3, 4 years, and so you don't want to buy a last gen interface or interconnects when you can buy that really fast stuff now. And at least 2 years down the road, if you wanted to get an NVMe drive, you would have the slot for it, you would have the connection for it, rather than totally missing out.
Yeah, that's solid advice. If anybody else that's watching has any questions, you kind of already covered this, but I'll just make sure that Mick gets his question in. Does AMD have plans for a non-dual core CPU to combat NVIDIA's new Titan X? I think he meant GPU.
He meant GPU.
Yeah. Right.
That's one of those things that would be qualified under Reg FD.
Okay. May get the same answer again. Does AMD have any plans to release any VR hardware in the future?
No. That's something I can definitely say we're not going to do. There's lots of hardware players. As you mentioned earlier, hardware R&D costs a lot of money. That's not an area we're interested in. We'd rather support other headset manufacturers and be the de facto platform for, headsets A through Z, rather than try to make our own, which essentially that would compete with partners of ours, right?
That's right.
Those are our
Yeah.
technology partners, and we would be competing with them. That's just
Yeah.
suicide for business.
Yeah. Yeah. It just makes more sense to partner with them and have them use your branding with some of their products.
That's right.
Yeah. And Robert, if anybody over there you talk to is looking at cases down the line, let me know. I would love to be involved with any type of R&D feedback on that. It would be a lot of fun. We're going to go ahead and go into our monkeying around segment, and this is where each of us share something cool with you, our audience. It doesn't have to be computer related. It doesn't have to be AMD or Intel, NVIDIA, or Radeon. It could be anything. So, and we'll start with our guest, Robert.
All right, let's see if the magical screen sharing function will work. Give me a sec here. All right, we'll hit the share button, and ta-da! Okay, so I am a huge fan of this Android app called Action Launcher, and the beautiful thing about Android.
Sorry to interrupt. Real quick, could you make your browser window a little smaller? It's really hard to see on in the screen share. There we go. Awesome.
There we
Thank
go. Sorry, ultra wide.
You and your fancy technology.
So the reason why I love this launcher is customizing your desktop on an Android phone is sort of an integral part of the experience. So you can move widgets anywhere, icons anywhere, add desktops, remove desktops. But one of the things that all the custom launchers don't do is when you buy a Nexus phone, like a Nexus 6P or 5X, if you're on the main home screen and swipe right, you can pull out Google Now from the leftmost screen. And that Google Now integration isn't available to most third-party launchers. It's something you only get with the Google Experience device, except if you run Action Launcher. So if you have a rooted phone and you have Action Launcher, you can actually enable Google Now integration on this launcher, and you can also control icon packs, desktop layouts, drawer layouts, columns, rows, like everything you would want to do with a normal launcher, plus this awesome Google Now integration. So for me, I've been an Apex launcher user for years. I've tried exposed modules for a long time to modify the Google Experience Launcher, but every update to the Google app breaks that. So finally, with Action Launcher, I have one launcher that does it all. And they also just upgraded to beta, as you see here on Android Police, to include some of the things from Android N. So if you want Android N features in a launcher today, Action Launcher Beta has that for you, and you don't have to wait for these rumored Sailfish or Marlin Nexus devices. So that is my monkeying around pitch, Action Launcher.
Nice one.
Awesome.
What do you got, Drew?
guys?
What do I got here? Let's see. And that is the Dolphin emulator.
Oh, yeah.
If you're a fan of the Nintendo Wii or the GameCube, this is a pure in-software emulator for the PC, and it takes some pretty hefty hardware to make a smooth game, but it doesn't take too much these days because a lot of the processing now on those two platforms was really streamlined, like Robert was saying earlier, and it's they got a programmer who came in to actually start cleaning up everything, and she started to rewrite all of the calls that would have been handled by the game processor, the console processor and the video processor separately in assembler language. So she's bringing it right back to on the steel as you can get.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to play a 2560 by 1440 resolution Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess for the Wii version, and I was getting 48 to 60 frames per second out of it, and it just looked gorgeous the entire time. Very rarely did I have any stuttering at all, and as you can see, it's got a little rotating display of some of the games that they've got there. And anytime basically you've ever been on Reddit and you've seen an ultra high resolution screenshot from any of these games, this is what they use to do it. And so that is my pick.
That's a great choice. Dolphin is awesome.
Yeah, it's a great nostalgia kick.
All right, gentlemen, I'll share mine next. You can see this okay.
Oh, wow.
This is a project, sneak peek, that I'll be working with AMD on.
Hey.
Yay! And can you identify what it is we're looking at?
Some sort of World War I tank of some sort or another?
Yes, it is. It's the Mark V tank. And we're going to build that, what you see, into an actual PC.
Wow.
And it's going to be almost 4 feet long in size.
It's way bigger than I expected.
The reason being, Robert, is it's going to have the R9 Fury Nitro in it, along with a full-size ATX board and ATX power supply. So this is.
So if it's a one of those Sapphire Tri-X things, it has to be that long in order to fit.
Yes. we pretty much built the tank scale around the graphics card. So there's just some glimpse here. You can see the layout here.
Wow.
So it's going to be quite insane. I think it's going to be probably the biggest project I've done to date in my modding history. So I can't reveal any more than that. You never saw this. You never saw anything. Every guy's cut the stream. We're out. No. This is all under NDA. I forgot. No, I'm kidding. So that is the project that I'll be working on, and I can't wait to get started.
I suppose I'm probably the only one left then, huh?
Yeah.
I guess as long as we're on the topic of sneak peeks, I'll go with Matt for mine as well. This is the NIdeas AI Crystal, and we just finished the review of the AI 7 from NIdeas. I don't know when that was, 2 weeks ago, I think, a week ago maybe. And this is the next one from them that we're doing, and so I guess I don't have a whole lot to share about the review itself, because I'll let you wait for the review to see what I thought. But yeah, this is the final build that I put together for this one, and it was a kind of a fun one. It's got a 280mm radiator in the front, along with a 360mm radiator in the top, and seeing as how we have our AMD guest, you can probably tell by the water block shape there that the CPU water block is on an AMD. And those are a pair of 7970s in there, so we got all kinds of fun going on in there.
That's great.
So that's pretty much all I've got.
Let's all bug Robert over the next few weeks to make him do his own DIY. We want to see a tweet of you bending PETG tubing on your Twitter. We want to see you actually doing that. Do you know what we're talking about, PETG tubing? Have you seen any of that, Robert?
I assume that's the hard plastic tubing that you need to roll a tool for. Yeah.
Yeah, he knows. He's watching. The Intel reps, all the Intel reps I know wouldn't know what it is. Yeah, that's why we got him on here, guys, because Robert's aware of what's going on. That's what's awesome.
Hey man, it's not just a job; it's a life. It's a hobby.
Well, isn't that true though? When you do something that you love, it's not a drag. I mean, each day is like a new challenge, and it's fun.
Yeah.
It's living the dream. Do you, Robert? Do you know of any any other types of positions that people that are in a similar situation that you were in that maybe could get their foot into AMD, even if it's just like ground level stuff? Do you know of any positions?
All of our jobs are posted on our AMD career site. We don't have any positions open that are like secret buddy you have to know. They're all on the job site. The biggest thing that I think we look for, just especially amongst marketing and PR, which is sort of my history at AMD, passion comes first, and if you're a well-known name in the industry, in the community, that of course, really helps because you come into AMD having name recognition with other people. Your opinion is well known and respected. So if anybody's aspiring on the marketing and PR side to get into AMD, just do everything that you can to promote your work and grow an audience and capture attention, capture interest. And we're watching. Like, we have people that are on Reddit, on Twitter, on Facebook, reading articles every day. We're enthusiasts too, and we definitely take notice. And when positions come open, we reach out to people all the time. So
it's very true. I love the fact that you guys are on Twitter, and in fact, when Twitter first started getting popular, AMD was the first in our industry to have the largest presence.
That's right.
Because I remember I connected with, man, I don't recall, this was years ago, but an individual there, I'm sure it's in my emails, but we reached out to him about doing a project when the new Wolfenstein game by Activision had released. I think that was maybe 2009 or 8. But that brings up another thing is there's, I did a build for AMD in 2006, and it was a build for CeBIT. It was the launch of the Phenom processor. And the build, it went to CeBIT in Germany, and then it was never seen after that. And the thing is, I didn't know about this because it was built for AMD, and then the individual we had a correspondence with during the Wolfenstein project build, he had asked, Bill, where is that PC? And I'm like, what do you mean? I thought you had it. He's like, no, nobody here has it or has seen it. So I'm thinking in retrospect, just because of my experience with dealing with these trade shows, that, and this thing weighed like 70 pounds. It was all billet aluminum. The whole shell was all machined aluminum. There it is. Mosquito's got it up on his screen.
Oh, there we
share. Go. So this build went to CeBIT, and it was never seen after that. And I'm thinking that, I don't know if they just left it there or if somebody took it or what. But that's the mystery, Robert. What happened to the Phenom build that
Oh, man. Well, my experience, trade shows, weird things happen to hardware. There are so many computers and so many shipments. Things suddenly appear months later, or they never reappear. It's kind of like the Bermuda Triangle. It's just very mysterious what can happen to these devices. Trade shows are really awful to computer hardware.
It's
all of a sudden, somebody somewhere has a really sweet computer.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody does, and it's true. I learned when I did CES in 2010 with Fractal Design that I had no idea. On the last day, these people started like hanging around the booth that weren't interested in what was at our booth. They're just kind of lingering around and just kind of lurking and stuff.
They want free stuff.
That's right. What happens is the vendor booths, a lot of vendors will say, hey, I'm leaving here at 3 o'clock, even though it ends at 6. Anything at our table that you want, you can have it. Because they don't want to pack it up and ship it back.
That happens. It definitely happens.
There was one of the guys that was with us, there was a large, I think it was like a 40-inch flat screen that he had an opportunity to get for like, otherwise vendors will also sell this stuff like dirt cheap. There's no warranty on it. Hey, $200 for this, we just want it out of here. He was like, but the problem is I can't bring that on the airplane back with me. And then later on we discovered there's a FedEx office right in CES to ship that stuff.
That happens especially with peripheral vendors like keyboards and mice and stuff. Yeah. A lot of the time they just don't want to carry that stuff back. So. Yeah.
So, Robert, have you had to work some of these trade show booths in the past for AMD?
Oh yeah, I've been to Computex several times, CES several times. Haven't done Gamescom yet. Did DreamHack in Sweden. That was fun. I've been all over.
Oh yeah, DreamHack. That's the biggest LAN in the world, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Crazy how many people are at DreamHack. It's like an airplane hangar worth of people plus like a CES convention hall crammed together for a week. It is absolutely nuts.
Yeah, yeah, and then that's where they have our member watches, the professional gaming leagues. Don't they usually have those guys there doing
They do.
a lot? Yeah,
The
uh,
DreamHack Invitational is very popular.
yeah. Now there was just a big industry event that I wasn't even aware of, and it was 2 weeks ago in Shanghai. It's the Joy
Yeah,
Fair,
China Joy.
China Joy,
Yeah.
and that's growing in popularity for our industry too.
Yes, it is. So China Joy is kind of like a CES, but it's absolutely massive in China. It's relatively unknown in the West, but it gets hundreds of thousands of attendees. It's a big event for AMD. We send lots of people there locally in China and from AMD headquarters. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool event. Unfortunately, I haven't been. That's one of the ones on my bucket list.
Oh yeah, I could see you going now, for sure.
One day it'll happen. It's just a matter of time.
Drew, did you have another question?
No, actually, I'm just having a lot of fun listening in. This is a great conversation.
I guess one of the questions that I had was, for a while there, it kind of seemed like AMD was perceived as the underdog, so to speak. Like, it seems way less corporate machine than, say, NVIDIA or Intel. And I was kind of curious if that had any sort of effect on the strategy or the focus of the R&D that was being done at AMD. Because it seems like lately there's been a whole lot of new things, like especially the HBM and all that kind of stuff coming out. It's like, well, how come nobody else started doing any of that, you know?
Well, one of the things about being smaller than your competitors is that you have to that you can't really rest on your laurels. You have to be new, you have to be innovative, you have to be fresh. That's what grows your business. And so things like HBM or this Radeon Pro SSG thing are sort of a manifestation of the fact that we are smaller. We want to explore new markets and try new things and do what maybe the other guys won't. And I think it also definitely has an effect on our corporate culture. AMD, like as an employee, it's pretty laid back. It's a very friendly bunch, great office. They give me great work-life balance. I've never had a bad manager at AMD, and just going into work every day, they're just great people there. And I'm sure that's true at other companies, but I really get the sense that there's just a easygoing passion for PCs at AMD, and it's a really nice culture to work in on a daily basis. And I think a lot of the time that matters more than what you're actually working on, because that could make your life miserable outside of work if the culture stinks or something like that. So AMD is a great place to work for.
I would isolate that right there as the best pitch of all about AMD. Just hearing Robert talk about his job there, I'm thinking, okay, now where's that job listings webpage? Take a that's pretty cool, man. I mean, I love hearing that. How many years have you been there?
Let's see, it'll be my 6th year in August.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh wait,
It is August.
Now it is August. So I've been at AMD for 6 years now. There we go.
6 years. That's
Yeah.
great.
And before that, I was the kind of person, that kind of jumped around every 18 to 24 months looking for the right fit. And I knew after my 2nd year passed at AMD, I'm like, here we go. I found it. This is it.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's inspiring to hear that. Robert, where can people find you online and follow you and ask you questions?
Great question. So Twitter is the one I watch the most, and my username is THRACKS, Thrax. But I'm also on Reddit as AMD_Robert. So if you invoke my username and summon me from the depths, I may reply, depending on how many other people have done that on that particular day. But I try to read everything that people ping me about, and at least if I don't give a reply, at least I'm acting on what they're asking of me. And then let's see what. Yeah, those are probably two of the best ways to reach me. I watch Twitter all the time, so.
Do you play any online games where maybe people could run in and say hi or play with you?
I'm on Steam, but I can't remember. Well, who isn't on Steam, right? But I can't remember my username versus the name I usually go with. I think it's again Thrax,
Okay.
Thracks, and then BattleNet. I cannot remember my pound code.
That's all right, man. But they can just ask you on Twitter. You guys can tweet at Robert. He's really cool about responding on Twitter, and let him know that you watch this. Hit him with any other questions or any comments, feedback. Let us know if you'd like us to have Robert on again. As I can tell already, it'd be great to catch up with you when there's some more product releases
Absolutely.
that we could hear about. So if you guys have anything else to add?
I don't think so, unless Robert has any questions for us. Modding related. That's about all we got.
Yeah, Rob. Have you ever done any case mods, any PC mods?
You know, that's just one branch of enthusiast PC stuff I never really got into. Sort of a build and forget kind of guy, and I've done a ton of builds, but never actually modded anything. So.
Have you ever thought that it would be cool to have something custom?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it comes down to, for me, it was always like the cost versus benefit for me. Modding is expensive. It's definitely a labor of love. It's kind of like working on your car, right? Some people understand the amount of money that it takes, and it can be a money pit sometimes, but it's really rewarding for those people. But for me, like, you know, I measure the scales, and I'm just like, screw it, I'll just build.
Yes, yes. I can hear our staffer Graham's spirit speaking through you. Yeah, we've got a guy on our staff that we're trying to get to mod and do all that stuff, and he has the same reasons too. And but we're still going to keep chipping away at him.
Just keep trying.
See, for me, that's where the review builds come in. See, that I take care of all my just build it in reviews, and then I can mod everything else.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, Drew, if you want to close us out.
Yeah. Well, once again, I just want to thank you again for popping on. This has been a great conversation to listen into. I always love listening to all of the industry, what we can get out of you anyway. And anytime you want to come back, just let us know. I mean, we've had everyone now from, AMD reps to Patrick Norton down on the other end of the scale, and it's everyone in between. It's been great. So for here at the Mod Zoo, for those of us at the Mod Zoo, I should say, come to themodzoo.com. Find us on Facebook. We are the Mod Zoo, and from there, those two sites, you can get us to get to our Twitter. You can get to our Gmail, not Gmail. Wow, today has just been a rough day. I do want to apologize to everyone because I had a loss of family last week, so I'm kind of loopy. And so if I'm fumbling, that's why.
Drew, we love you, man. We love you. Okay.
We love you too, guys. Okay. Our Google Plus page, our Twitter, our Facebook, all of that can be reached from our webpage at themodzoo.com. So what we want to say in closing, as I've been saying every week that I can, you've got something out there that annoys you. You know that you can make it look better, act better, just be better in general. You find it, cut it up, just go out and mod something, would you? Have a great week, guys.
See you.
Later.